Hey guys, so thanks for sending me this game record, and I hope this review will be helpful. This game was a little bit shorter because this black group here ended up dying, so I think this was definitely the key moment of the game. We can see that black ended up with a lot of solid territory, some in the upper left, some in the lower left, although it's undercut a little here on this with this A4 stone, and most promisingly, a really big lower right corner. White, on the other hand, kind of has this big moyo, and will clearly get some territory on probably the third or fourth line, but beyond that, it's really hard to say. So at this point, Black's territory, or Black's group, was under severe attack, and I think this was Black's last chance to escape with it. So in the game, Black played like this, but was not able to make two eyes after this point. However, I think if instead Black plays this Hane here to get out, then Black will probably live, and in fact will probably wreck some of White's territory. If White just simply Hanes like this and Black extends, it's going to be pretty hard to kill Black. I played this sequence out here. We can see that Black already has basically half an eye here, but because of these cutting points, Black is probably going to be able to make a second. And after this Kama, if White tries to cut, it's not going to work so well. And note that if White tries to cut this way, then Black can play here, and then no matter which way White plays, Black's going to be out. And of course, if White blocks this way, then Black will connect. But it looks like White can cut here, but I believe with this sequence and then these Ataris, which are all forced, we can see that right now, Black should have Miai for life, because he basically has 1.5 eyes here, you could say. So if White tries to take that eye, then with this forcing sequence, Black should be able to live. So if White connects here, so if White does something else, then obviously Black will just take these two stones. But if White saves them, then Black can pull out these two stones here. And we can see that White now has these two groups to look after, and this big White group is very short on liberties. So even if White tries to save this group by capturing these two stones, it looks like the White group will probably still die, and even if not, Black can simply capture these 3 stones. So it looks like Black probably could have lived here. So let's take a look from the beginning and see why Black got so severely attacked, because the same thing kind of happened in the middle left. So I think White was pretty good at attacking in this game. Okay, so we see White played the 5-3 point. We don't see this one so much these days since AlphaGo, as the AI doesn't seem to like it so much. The reason being that it gives up a lot of territory in the corner. That's not to say that you shouldn't play it, but it's just become a little less common in these days. So Black played this common approach. And then we see that Black played this third line extension. So this is a little uncommon. It's more usual to see Black just play this jump here. And this is just because the jump is faster. It's just a way of getting ahead of White. So sometimes White will just tanuki and approach somewhere else. Sometimes White will also just keep pushing, and we might have sort of a longer sequence here where White will try to take a bit of the corner in Sente and either keep pushing or tanuki somewhere else. So the idea with this push is there's a very clear idea here, which is that if Black plays not this corner move, but this jump, because Black has made this one extra exchange, the difference is that White's attachment at C17 is not as powerful as if Black only had the 2 stones. So that's really the meaning of this extra push. Because by itself, it's probably not a good exchange, because Black only gets 2 more points of territory, but White gets a lot thicker. But we can see that if White tries this same sort of push and cut, this attachment here at C17 is now meaningless because Black has extra liberties. So Black doesn't have to be worried about this at all. So that's kind of the idea with that one extra push. So after this kick, though, Black kind of got away with it a bit because White played here. But White should really resist. So I think descending to the second line is the best way to do it. Because if you if you just play here like this, then Black has gotten this great exchange for free, because Black has totally sealed off the corner and gotten a lot of territory. So If white resists this way, then later there's still room to jump into this corner. And white doesn't have to be worried about this cutting point right now because white could just simply capture the black stone, so it's not really an issue yet. And so I understand why black played here to try and protect this cutting point at c17, but it's a little bit slow. I don't think it's the most efficient way of doing it, so we want to try and take sente if we can, or at least get some territory. So I think if instead black just pushes once and jumps, that seems a lot better to me. There still is some aji here, but I think black should be able to hang on. So even if white tries to cut directly, or even push and cut here, it doesn't look like anything really works here. So I don't think black has any problem. So as long as black makes this one extra pushing exchange, black should be okay with this. And we can see that black gets more territory this way than just playing this second line, this 2-2 move here. This is a good approach for white. I like this approach. This is all normal. Yeah, I think black made a good choice here with this joseki as opposed to just this one, because the push here at 016 that we see right here is a good way of sort of just like flattening white out and kind of pressing white down, and so making these stones like a little inefficient. So I think that's a good direction of play for black here. So this pincer looks good too, and I think the reason for that is that this is clearly the more interesting side here. We can see that this side up here, black is kind of peeking out on the third line, so it's really not as interesting. And for that reason, I think white should have actually blocked the other way. So if white blocks this way, and we just have our standard sequence, we can see that it's actually looking pretty good for white, right? Because black is sort of pressed down on the third line on both sides. So this side has become very uninteresting for black. So white has forced black to play low on the uninteresting side. And if white follows that up with an approach here, I think that's a good direction of play for white. Whereas personally as white here, I would feel a little concerned with this kind of joseki because it's not so clear how white is going to get value from these outside stones. Since black can just jump here, or even play here, it looks a little difficult to play for white, in my opinion. So yeah, black chose to take the corner. I think that's fine. So yeah, this is a totally fine point. If it were me personally, I would probably want to try and poke at the corner a bit more in the lower right. So maybe something like this, or I guess this is possible too, but especially this move, which is angled a little bit more towards the side. We could get a sequence like this. It's kind of similar to what we saw in the game, but this one is just a little bit more focused on the corner, which I think is just a bit more valuable than the sides here. So this jump is okay. I think it's a little slow. And I think there's some bigger points on the board for black. Specifically, I know I keep talking about this jump here at c12, but it really is just so big. I mean, obviously, it's a bunch of territory for black, but if we can see the difference between this, right, where sort of all of white's influence is kind of wrecked here, or what if white had just turned here? It makes a big difference, right? Suddenly, this whole left side is looking very promising for white. Even if white doesn't get the whole thing, black will probably have to invade and get attacked pretty severely, and white will get a good result, and these two walls kind of work very well together. So I think black should try to mess that up a bit, I would say. It's also possible to consider this kema here to kind of press this white area down, and if white were to say, I don't know, play something like this, then I'd be looking at not this jump, but maybe a sequence like this to sort of press black down here. But black played here, so I think, I think white probably should have just turned there. But white chose to play here, which I think is also good. This group is looking pretty scrunched up here, so this is a good attacking move, I think. The kema is a great way to attack in this shape. Black responded a little bit passively. I would have considered where is is it? Yeah, either counterattacking like this and sort of looking at either cutting through this Kama or attaching here at R11, or alternatively just attaching here and just trying to make a base and then maybe pushing here or something like that. It just seems a little bit more active than taking this corner point, which isn't so important right now because the white group is very safe. And so by the same token, white should not, I don't think, have taken the corner, but instead try to seal black in here. So if black is forced to turn at S18 here, white can take this other turn, and now this is looking even better for white. White has like very overwhelming influence here, and I think the game is looking very interesting for white from this point. And furthermore, even if black later plays whatever, white has some more opportunities to kind of poke at black shape, either this Gosumi or possibly even the attachment here. So it's looking pretty good for white, I would say. So white gave black a bit of a chance to get out here. So I think this move is the right idea, but I think black should just play the 1-point jump and just stay connected to the side. So there's no reason to play this and so white played the right move here. There's no reason for black to just let himself get disconnected this way. And we can see that even though we do have a nice base for black, since white has so many stones around, we're going to get attacked a bit, and there's just no reason that this had to happen. I think instead of this push, white should have just attached here. This is the more common shape. And like this, white could have built up a lot of thickness to help this moyo up at the top. I think it's a little bit too early for black to kind of be like hunkering down for life. So what if instead we just push up a bit first and then play here? So we're just trying to mess with white shape a bit and leave stuff like this cutting point for later once we're alive. So this was a good move for white to mess with the corner and the side. Black should remember that there's always this emergency move here at H2 to live, so black should probably be okay here. Probably a bit better just to descend instead of the Hane, and so the reason is that after this, black played here to solidify the corner, but I actually don't think it's necessary. I think black should just totally connect and just easily live here. I don't see what white can do here to kill. Maybe black was worried about this move and that it would be a ko or something like that. But black actually doesn't have to fight this ko. Black can just counter Atari and just give up a couple points. And black will easily be alive in Sente, in fact. So it's really just a matter of endgame and not something to worry about. There's other much bigger points. So I think black should have just connected there. But so instead, white was able to take the opportunity to kind of take this vital point here at B10 and attack very severely. And I think white actually let black off a little bit too easy here. So white played here and just let black live. But what if white instead pokes at black's eye space with a move like this Kama? It looks like it's going to be pretty dangerous for black. So black has one eye here, but not a second eye yet. And so if white obviously could just like play something like this and force black to live, but it's usually not so good to do that. We would usually prefer to either keep the Aji, use it as a co-threat, or just take the eye and force black to run out. And the idea is that by doing this, white is going to get a lot of free moves that will help with the top. So if we see some kind of sequence like this, even if black totally lives, we can see that this upper area is becoming quite huge. So I really think it would be good for white to poke at black's eye space a little bit here. But after this, black just lived with very few points, but I think white could have gotten something better out of it. So this turn is good. So now this upper area is looking very good for white. And this black group is getting weak. So it's like black has to worry about one group after another because all of black's groups have kind of been cut off from each other. We can see 1, 2, 3, all 4 of these groups have basically been surrounded. So I think that's really the source of black's problems here. So I like the idea of this move, this counterattack, but I feel like it's a bit of an overplay. I think once white has both S18 and N16, white is just too strong to be able to attack. So I think it's time for black just to live here with something like that. And just focus on keeping your territory in the bottom right and finding some way to reduce the top. But white handled this well. I think the Hane here like this would also be possible, but this one's fine too. And black just cannot afford this move, I think, unfortunately. Black might just have to live. As painful as this cut is, black is in a bit of a tight spot. So white played a nice vital point here, although it might have been good enough just to play here at, what is this, at P11, and just to let black live if he wants to, and then just take this whole territory here. But white went for the kill here, and it ended up working. So this is kind of what we talked about before. So black could actually, just at this point, just Hane here at N15, and just get out and live this way. And the biggest worry for black is that white will get a lot of forcing moves to get all this territory here. But white actually isn't totally safe, because white still has to worry about these stones. So there's a limit on what white can do here, I think. And then black had one more chance here. This is a sequence I was talking about at the beginning of the review, to live with this move here. And, white can't really try anything like this because black can just take the stone. And I don't think white will have any way of killing this group. But after this, white played without mercy. And there really was no way for black to catch up after that group died, and that was the game. So I hope this review was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for sharing.